Hello and welcome to Kleshna's jewellery making channel. I'm going to be showing you how to make this divine piece of confection today. Now this is a really rather beautiful Swarovski Blue AB Marquise diamond, and I have created this rather wonderful bezel and its strap. It's done up with a magnetic clasp here, and I hope you agree it's something worthwhile working for. So without further ado, what I would say to you is have a look at the other marquise, which I've done in great detail. I did a large marquise bezel, which is this one, if you're getting slightly muddled up, but it's not terribly dissimilar. So I'm going to speed through this one somewhat, because it's just a case of adapting the number of rows. So in this one there's only 4 rows and there's slightly less work at the top of the marquise, but otherwise it's a rather wonderful piece for you to make for yourself. And the kit is on the website. If you haven't noticed it already, have a look. So let's get down to the bead board here and let's get cracking. You start exactly the same way. You pick up 3 of the silver twin beads. You then pick up 1, 2, 3, 1 seed, 1 white, 1 seed white, a seed white, and then we're going to do only 2 little beads for our pyramid on the side because it's a lot smaller. But it's not small basically as far as diamonds are going. God, this reminds me of sort of Liz Taylor's, you know, wonderful big diamonds that Richard Burton used to buy for her. Oh, what a man, eh, to buy you those sort of diamonds, girls. Rather splendiferous, isn't it? Right, there we go, and we've almost done the first row. You know, this is how teeny tiny this one is in comparison to the other. We're only putting 3, whereas we had 4 in this one on, and we're putting 2 of these on, the silver ones, and there we go, 1, 2, 3, and my super long needle here, there we go. I'm just going to show you, that's what your thing should look like. 3 that are absolutely together, no seed beads, 3, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3. Then we're going to do a little knot up here. Again, as I said before, not something I often advocate, but as we're working with size 8 seed beads, it doesn't really hamper us too much. Little surgeon's knot there, which means basically you go through the hole in the middle twice. We'll leave that dangling just for a little bit. Then the next row, again, you go up to the second hole on the seed bead. Oh, there's a naughty little broken one here. I have to say these things are incredibly durable. I'm very naughty, but sometimes if I put too many beads in something, sometimes I will crush a bead in order so that I don't have to unpick the whole darn piece. And I tried to crush some of these, and it's almost nigh on impossible. So they are extremely durable beads to work with. There we go. I'm just going to, no, I'm not going to pick that one up. So what I've done is I'm going to now do 4 of the white duos. I'll show it to you here in between. So I've put 2 beads there to splay out the beads at the top, and I've then gone 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm doing 1 in between the silvers, and I'm going 1, 2, oopsie, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 2 of these, and then I've done row 2, and then you've only got 2 more rows to go before you actually set the bead or the gemstone into the bezel. So it's really very, very simple. I'm going to cut off that excess long piece in a minute. because otherwise it will drive me completely bereft. And for those of you who haven't watched the other one, you won't know why I'm saying this, so go and watch it. I will try not to knock everything over. God, that was funny. In the last shoot that we did, I managed to knock absolutely everything off the board. No, you want a silver one here? Yes, I do. Thank you, Kleshna. Do any of you out there talk to yourselves? Do email me and let me know. I'm sure I'm not the only person in the world who ends up telling myself off if I do something wrong. Oh. Will it, won't it? No, it won't. See, this is why I love these super long needles, because they really are very good at not dropping things off them. Now I'm going to go right the way through the silver part at the top here. I'm going through the lower bit on this bead here and through and out to the other side. I'm going to chop this little piece off here, voila, like that. I'm now going into the upper hole on this, so this is actually row number 3. Now let me just have a look at the one I made earlier. Row number 3 is 1, 2, 3. No, I don't do anything strange on this one. On the other one you do something a little bit strange on row number 3, but you don't on this, because we're working with a smaller bead, and therefore the aperture and the bend and the curvature that we'll need on this bezel is going to be slightly less than when you're working on a much bigger piece, where you've got much more of a sort of step really to take. Right, almost there. This is the first side. I'm sure you won't be able to do it at this speed, although you might be. But for the purpose of doing this, I think it's quite good to see that there are some things you can kind of whip up together quite fast. So I'm right up to the top of this here. Can you see how, you know, when I pull this, all the bits go in together? So we're starting to create a slight curve on this already, which is great, just what we wanted and were aiming to do. There we go. Just going to grab very tentatively a few more beads here so I don't knock anything flying this time round. And we've almost come to the point where we're going to be, not quite, but putting the bead in. You know, if ever you want to test whether a bezel is going to work with a bead, I'll just show you what creates my own decision in a second. There we go. Da, da, da. Almost there. Ooh, hello. And the other thing you need to be aware of with this is make sure you don't get your beads in twisted, because that's quite easy to happen as well. As you can see, before I reverse, I always go back through. Right, now the way that you test if something's going to be right for the bead yet is you pop your bead in there and you see if all these bits will flop over. They won't flop over to the right extent as yet, so that means indicates to me that I have to put in another row, which I'm going to do by flipping it over. Okay, I think I'm going to go round here, go through one more bead at the top here. Come on, needle. Right, there we go. Perseverance, something that you have to learn when you're doing beadwork, isn't it, ladies? And gentlemen, possibly. I met a charming gentleman who was an architect at the weekend who really enjoys doing beadwork. I think it's quite relaxing when you're all day at a board. So I'm only using matte white now on my last row, so let me move these out of the way because that's what I need. and it also helps me to highlight the silver more on this particular design, which I think looks rather like a rather beautiful Victorian frame on a miniature. You know, when they used to make these wonderful little baby oil paintings, which was actually the forerunner to photography. So before cameras had been invented, as an aide-memoire of your loved ones, people used to paint miniatures. So, you know, if you wanted to have a memory of somebody that you adored, you know, your wife, your children, in the old days, people used to have a miniature painted of them. And when they were in their lovely horse-drawn carriages, they used to take the miniature with them. Now, there's a useless piece of information that you might find of some interest. Okay, we're going to go back down to my board now, and I've almost finished doing this bezel, going around the edges here. Just need a few more of these here. Right. There we go. It's all gone very quiet now. I've gone very quiet. I'm concentrating. I want to get this perfectly right for you, and I've done it so quickly that the little person in my head is saying, "You've done this right, Kleshna," but I have done it right. There we go. Right, okay. We've now got to a point where you can see everything's starting to, let me just flip these all outwards. Got the right shape now for putting in my marquise. Now, do be careful when you're putting your marquise in to make sure that you put it in with the right side down. It's the bluey looking side. It's the blue looking side that you want to put in going down. If you can't work out which is the blue and which isn't the bluey side, there's a sort of a yellowy pinky looking coating on the other side. So we're going to pop that in there like that. We're going to flop over all of these wonderful beads here, and I'm going to pop all of those over like that, and I'm going to go up a notch onto the second row of my twin beads, and I'm going to pop them all around, and I'm going to sew around the outside of this a few times so that, and the other thing, you know, it does move and wiggle around until you've put this in properly. So you will have to bear with it, so to speak, until you can lodge this properly. But you'll get there. It's just a little bit of patience and perseverance. And whenever you finish things, it's very funny, when I'm actually working like this, happily you can't see it, but there are lots of thumbprints on on the crystals that I'm working on, because it's the best way to actually hold something is between your fingers and thumb. I'm always very conscious that it will show up on camera what a mess it looks. Right, so you've got to try and hold that with one finger. I'm now going to do a half hitch. So I'm going to, which is a bit like blanket stitch. And as I go through this, it normally tightens things up a bit. There we go. There we go. And it's only when you then pull it up that it starts to tighten things up a bit. Initially, when you set off again, you think, oh gosh, this isn't going to work at all well, but it does. Suddenly it starts to tighten when you pull the thread, which is also the other reason I like using Beadalon's Wildfire, because I find it to be very robust. But I think, you know, you'll find as you get better at doing any of this beading, you'll find, there we go, it's gone tighter again. I love it. I love these little hitch knots, just like a blanket stitch. Go around like that. As you get better, you know, you need to find out what's best for you to work in. I know what I love. Now I'm just having to just slightly adjust that round because I can see that the point is slightly off centre, and before it's at the point of no return, point to point, I just need to do that. So I think that I've finished this part of it now. I'm just going once more round the back, and then I'm going to cut this off, and I'm going to insert another piece of thread to do the arms on this. So there we go, that's now cut off. Look, can you see how neatly is that done? Very proud of myself, I am. Right, okay, that's that little bit. So this is a small bezel. I'm going to put that into my little wheelie bin. Have you seen my little desk wheelie bin here? It's rather sweet, isn't it? It's even got little wheels like this at the back of it. But, you know, I used to find that I got to a point when I was beading where I know where to put all the excess bits, really. And now I do. I put it in my little baby wheelie bin. Somebody has been using my special scissors to cut something other than thread, and I shall find out a la Poirot style, and I will have their guts for garters, because they should never ever be used for anything. Your scissors for cutting threads, do not ever use them for anything other than cutting threads. There we go. Hole-in-one Kleshna, not bad, eh? Right, okay. How you insert a thread in a piece of work so that you don't have pieces that are 9 arms long to work with is you basically go back through the piece of work and you have to kind of insert it in a slightly, I've chosen to do it on the side here, hold a bit here in an unobtrusive place, and you just, I don't know, I suppose I call it kind of messing around a bit with the work. You just wiggle your way through a few of the beads, and it's only when you go backwards and forwards that it will hold properly. You see, no, look, I've completely made a complete Horlicks of that. God, I wonder if anyone knows what Horlicks is anymore nowadays. I hope that beaders, or as they say on the television, if they mention a drink, or it could be another hot drink that you have at night. There must be some ruling that it's seen as advertising if you mention a brand name. But it's quite funny because if you mention something in passing on telly, someone will immediately leap in there and say, or of course it could be any other brand of blah blah blah, whatever it is that you said, which always makes me chuckle. Right, okay, I'm getting caught on the side of my bead board, which I don't want to do. And I'm going back along this length again. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Come on, come out, wherever you are. Thank you. Can you see? So I've gone that way, I've gone that way, and I'm now going to go back this way until I come out near the top. Now that is almost secure, so I'm also going to pull this down so that disappears in there, and then I'm going to go around this bead here again, and by doing that it will help to actually hold it on. And you won't really see right now. Can you see I can pull that and it's not going to all come through on me? Right. What I will now be doing is I am going to add in one more of these twin beads here, because I want it to stick out at the end, because that's going to form the central part of my strap. Okay, so I'm going in there, I'm going to go, can you see the edge bit here? I'm going to go back through here, the one below. I'm just going to get a pair of pliers. because I find it really rather useful if I'm doing some intricate move. There we go, it's gone through. So I'm going back through these 3 here because I want to sew this bead in properly. I'm going up through here because, you know, this is one of the beads that's going to have more use on it because it's forming the strap. So I don't want to just do one line to sew it in. I want to do more than one line to sew it in. So I'm going to go back through it again. So I'm going through this one at the side here. And I'm going through here again. And out of here again. So I now have a really well rocked bead in here. Okay, so what I want to show you now is that I've created this little sort of aerial bead to stick out, which is going to form, let me just take this off my wrist, going to form the top part of where you start to form the strap on this. Now, I've got a little strap, but the joys of creating your own jewellery or jewellery for a friend is that you can make it as long as you want to. But I think for the purpose of this particular piece, because it is a large stone that you're using, you don't want it to be too wobbly. I think you want it to be close to the wrist, which is what this is, with a lovely little magnetic clasp here. Okay, so I'm just going to take this off whilst I do this and lay this down here. So what I'm going to do next is pick up one of my, I'm going to go through the top hole on this. I'm picking up one white matte bead and another white matte bead on the other side, so that they're rather like the old-fashioned. I'm then going to go back through the bottom hole of the silver bead so that my matte beads are held in either side like that. They won't go into true until you sew in the next stitch through the bottom hole of the 2 white beads like that. Okay, so you're going to have a little tiny bit of thread here, but it's not a big deal. And then I'm going to line up my silver bead, and I'm going through the top hole of the white matte, the bottom hole of the silver, and the top hole of the other white matte bead here. And I'm going to go, because this is my first one, I'm going to go back through the bottom hole of the very first 2 matte white beads, and I'm going around again, and you won't see any of the stitching because it's all on the outside. So one is creating, so I'm picking up then through the bottom hole a white matte bead, I'm going through the top hole of the silver one, and I'm picking up a white matte bead. I'm then going through the top hole of the previous white matte bead and the bottom hole of the silver one, and out through the other side. You know, you want this to be robust because this is the bit that's going to be the using part. So again, you go through the side hole, you know, go around it twice. I'd always much rather that we had a more robust piece that looked fantastic than a rather sort of feeble and weak piece that, you know, breaks in next to no time. And I think that's probably because instead of coming from a pure crafting background, I come from a background of someone who actually has sold quite a lot of jewellery in my lifetime to people. And if everything that I made broke, the shops that buy from us would not be very happy. Right, now I'm going through the top and picking up another silver bead and the top of this one here. I'm going to do it one more time, and then I'm going to tell you how you finish this off, which is very simple because you don't need to sit there and watch me doing this for hours on end because you're all far too clever out there, and you've seen in theory how this is done, which is really quite simple. There we go. Can you see? So I'm creating, do you remember the old-fashioned bracelets you used to pull and they were on an elastic? We're creating this sort of thing. Now, one thing I would advocate you do is when you work your way back down that, you put in a little silver bead here and a little silver bead here, but it's not an essential. Now, when you have made this and extended it long enough so that when it sits on the middle of your wrist, it goes round to here, which I will show you how mine, I've made the one for me. So you want it to literally, I'm just going to flip my wrist over like that, go round centrally to your wrist. So you don't want any extra sort of selvage left over. And then what you do, can you see here how I have, I'm just going to hold it open. What I've done is I've left the gap at the top, and instead of inserting one more silver bead, I've inserted 1/2 of the magnet there and sewn back through it a few times. And I've done the same on the other side. So when you get to that point that it is here, that's obviously when it's the right length. You sew backwards and forwards and you pop your magnet in. And that's, my dear friends, is all you have to do. And then, as they say, once you finish making it, wear it. I hope you've enjoyed this video that we've done for you. Hope it's been clear, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. Bye bye.